Hello and welcome to another ATP Geopolitics video with myself, Jonathan MS Pitts. This is a Ukraine war, I guess, breaking news update. It's very late in the night, UK time. This is an ill-advised video. I've seen a couple of gin and tonics off in my neighbour's caravan, and I'm the best part of a bottle of wine through the evening. It's almost midnight, but things are happening. The surreal reality of what is happening is I was watching with my partner the ITV Litvinenko dramatization of the Putin assassination of Alexander or Sasha Litvinenko, a former FSB agent or KGB agent who was killed in London with polonium 210 back in the sort of mid 2000s. Whilst watching that, just starting to watch out with my partner, thinking, "Oh, this would be pretty topical for myself to watch." Uh, Twitter explodes, news explodes to an attempted coup. Some kind of activity is going on in Moscow and around Russia that I am still struggling to get my head around. I'm not really quite sure what's going on, and I'm not really sure I can actually give all that much clarity to you, good people. What is taking place? Well, there's activity with regard to the military Rosgvardia, which are the kind of riot police, the internal security in Moscow and around the country in Russia, and certain places, Rostov on Don. They are active. Why are they active? Well, it appears like Prigozhin is making some kind of attempted coup, like putting a bid into, yeah, if Prigozhin is truly doing a coup, he will try to take control of Rostov on Don. Controlling Rostov equals cutting off the main supply line to the entire Russian army in Ukraine. The army is then Prigozhin's hostage. When fighting erupts in Rostov, the Russian civil war has begun. Well, what the devil does all that mean? First of all, where's Rostov on Don? Well, it's just to the east of Ukraine, of the Donbass, Donetsk here. Rostov on Don, that's a city there. It's on the way up to Voronezh and then up to Moscow. So, anyway, what's taken place? Well, your guess is as good as mine. I'll try to give you some kind of clarity, as I've said. In the middle of the day, this is no reports, kind of giving a bit of a synopsis. In the middle of the day, Prigozhin issued a statement questioning the motives for invading Ukraine. He uses the bombing of Donetsk by the Ukrainian army as a so called invasion with NATO troops as an example. I showed you two parts of a four-part video series on Prigozhin's uh, kind of rant. He's not unused to doing these. Uh, they were really revealing. He's super critical of the Russian MOD, the conventional military forces, with, I guess, it's critical of the Russian military hierarchy, stopping just short of criticizing Putin. And I was talking in my extra video earlier today that he does all this, but does Putin really know what Prigozhin is saying? And Putin lives in his information bubble, and now we are seeing the Prigozhin claims possibly actually getting through to Putin now, and shit hitting the fan, whilst also appearing to be a case of Prigozhin actually stepping out and saying, right, I'm not just criticizing, I'm doing stuff. So, anyway, to continue, no report says later this evening, Wagner troops reported that Russian troops had allegedly attacked their base with missiles. Prigozhin was furious. And this the report here is channels associated with Wagner that their camp was hit by a massive rocket attack. According to the reports of Wagner fighters, the attack was inflicted from the rear, meaning Russian Federation forces would be behind this attack. Needs verification, but sounds epic. Okay, so then what happened? Not much later, Prigozhin came up with an audio message in which he cryptically declares war on the Russian Ministry of Defense. So the question is, what were the okay? Who's responsible for this? What's the causal chain going on here? Well, Prigozhin has been super critical of the Russian MBD, and it seems like they have snapped, hit back physically at Wagner in I don't even know what area that is, and then Prigozhin's then going right now. Now let's let loose. Um, So Noel Reports then says at the start of the coup in Russia, quotes from the message: "The evil that the military leadership of the country bears must be stopped. I ask you not to resist anyone. Everyone who tries will be destroyed. Justice in the troops will be restored, and after that, justice in all of Russia." A series of events unfolded afterwards. Russian military and police were put on high alert. As you can see from the footage I've just showed you, roadblocks were set up in Moscow and St. Petersburg. Wagner headquarters were surrounded, columns on the way to Moscow. Tomorrow, we'll probably find out how this played out. And as I say, there's so much information flooding the information space, it's hard to keep up. But this is from a good couple of hours ago now, right? Just one source saying Putin has been informed about the situation around Prigozhin. All necessary measures are being taken. So this is possibly the case where someone has actually gone so far as saying, right, Putin, Prigozhin has said this, this, and this. What do you say? And Putin has probably snapped. I don't know. I'm kind of joining the dots here. I was talking earlier, but as I said, about how Putin lives in this information bubble, doesn't necessarily get all the information that he should to make decent decisions, hence why he makes really bad decisions. Well, it seems that someone's actually told him the truth here. What else is known at the moment? This all says the remnants of Wagner units on the outskirts of Bakhmut opened fire on regular Russian troops. Bakhmut demon. Now, there are a lot of claims going around. Do not take these claims as being certainly true. Take them with a massive block of salt, as I quite often say. There's just a lot of rumors going around. These claims might not be true. After Prigozhin's statements, a criminal case was opened for calling for an armed rebellion. Quote, "We demand an immediate stop to illegal actions." That's a statement of the National Anti-Terrorist Committee of the Russian Federation. SOBR fighters were sent from Moscow to Belgrade by plane, and the Kremlin closed access for visitors. The employees were informed that this regime is valid until further notice. Russian state mass media and Telegram channels were forbidden to publish and mention any of Prigozhin's statements. So there is definitely a schism between Prigozhin, between Wagner and Prigozhin, and the Russian MOD and the Kremlin and Putin. So now that much is. At the same time, TV in Russia has been hacked, showing Prigozhin's, or at least you could hear Prigozhin's audio address, I believe, and that is obviously pretty significant. Right, what did the mainstream media say? This is the Guardian saying Russia investigates Wagner chief for armed mutiny after call for attack on the military. FSB opens criminal case after Prigozhin accuses Russia's military of rocket attack and says evil leadership must be stopped. Russia's FSB, a security service, has opened a criminal case for armed mutiny against Prigozhin after the mercenary chief accused the Russian military of targeting his forces and vowed to destroy his rivals. In an extraordinary series of audio clips released late on Friday, that's tonight, Prigozhin claimed that Russian rocket attack had killed scores of his fighters, vowing to take revenge and stop the evil, quote, "stop the evil brought by the military leadership of the country. Those who destroyed today our guys, who destroyed tens of thousands of lives of Russian soldiers, will be punished." I'm asking, no one resist. Prigozhin also published a video which he claims shows the aftermath of the rocket attack on the Wagner camp in Russia's southern Rostov region. So this is Rostov on Don. As I say, this is to the east of Donetsk, really. You got Mariupol, you got Taganrog, Azov, Rostov on Don. So this is the city in the oblast of Rostov there. So that's what we're talking about there. It appears that there might have been an attack inside Russia on Wagner. In a virtual declaration of war against his rivals in the Russian military, Prigozhin said he controlled 25,000 fighters and that together, quote, "we are going to figure out why the chaos is happening in the country. Anyone who wants should join. We need to end this mess," he said. "Everyone who will try to resist will consider them a danger and destroy them immediately, including any checkpoints on our way and any aviation that we see above our heads," he added. "I'm asking everyone to remain calm, do not succumb to provocations, and remain in their houses. Ideally, those along our way do not go outside. After we finish what we started, we will return to the front line to protect our motherland, Prigozhin said. The FSB said that Prigozhin's statements and the actions constituted calls for the start of an armed civil conflict on the territory of the Russian Federation. Russian state news agency TASS, citing law enforcement agencies, reported that security measures have been strengthened in Moscow, critical facilities taken under increased protection. Unconfirmed footage also appeared to show military vehicles on the streets of the Russian capital. Amid rumors of columns of Wagner fighters were already on the move, General Sergei Surovikin. So Surovikin was the guy the butcher of Syria, who pulled out of, he was in charge of the Russian forces, pulled out of Kherson, organized that, and sorted out lots of defensive lines, and then was replaced by Gerasimov. He has been traditionally seen as a bit of an ally of Prigozhin, but he has come out and done a video message that says, stop this nonsense. But also, he had a gun by his side, so it's all kind of a bit dodge. So anyway, where were we? So yeah, I urge you to stop, said Surovikin, who is previously understood to be close to Prigozhin. The enemy is just waiting for the internal political situation to worsen in our country. A string of statements marked an unprecedented escalation of infighting among Russia's elite, which has pitted Prigozhin against Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu and senior military commanders. The FSB urged Wagner fighters not to make irreparable mistakes, to stop any forceful actions against the Russian people, not to carry out the criminal and treacherous orders of Prigozhin, and to take measures to detain him. In a separate statement, prosecutors said that Prigozhin could face between 12 and 20 years in prison. Right. And so it goes on. You can imagine there's an awful lot of stuff going on. This is not a military coup. This is a march of justice. Our actions do not hinder the armed forces in any way, the Wagner chief said, adding that the majority of soldiers were on his side. So, oh, goodness me. So Chris Owicki says, an emergency security plan is reported to have been activated in Moscow in response to Prigozhin's rebellion, according to a Telegram channel with apparent links to the Russian security forces. An imminent attack on Moscow appears to be anticipated, according to one particular Telegram channel that Chris Owicki refers to a lot. A source has told it that the Krepost fortress plan has been activated in the Russian capital. Krepost is a rarely used security plan that is intended to repel an attack on security force installations in Moscow. So that's why you are seeing stuff like this happening in Moscow. According to the Russian news agency Ryamo, it, quote, implies an emergency gathering of law enforcement personnel and control of especially important objects of the Ministry of Internal Affairs, the Federal Security Service of the Russian Penitentiary Service. The plan also provides for blockading the buildings of law enforcement agencies and readiness by the forces on duty to repel an external attack. Important Stories reports that a source close to the Russian presidential administration says there is, quote, panic. They do not exclude the scenario of the start of a civil war. The administration is said to have had information a week ago that Prigozhin was planning something. It believes that the video purporting to show the aftermath of a missile strike on a Wagner camp was staged, presumably to serve as a pretext for action. So obviously there are claims, there are counterclaims. One of Wagner's channels, all military who do not support the coup will be considered collaborators who sided with the Ukrainians. It will be interesting. The proverbial excrement, the fees has hit the fan. BBC sources say FSB and other security officials are on alert in Moscow. A source close to the security services told the BBC that the Moscow directorate of the FSB is being put on alert. This is confirmed by our source in army circles, who reports that the alarm in the Moscow garrison there is an alarm in the Moscow garrison. According to this source, the FSB, supported by the Special Rapid Reaction Detachments of the National Guard, is setting up roadblocks on the Don Highway, the Moscow to Voronezh to Rostov on Don Highway. So just to remind you, that is Rostov on Don. Oops, here we go. Rostov on Don, up to Voronezh, and then up to Moscow there. That highway, that's what we're talking about here. that highway. Those on duty at the checkpoints are ordered to open fire, quote, in case of a threat. The equipment is kept in readiness, but the units have not yet received the order to move it out. Other media reports add that Moscow security forces are put on high alert and a plan called Fortress is being introduced in the capital, a plan to protect the facilities of the Interior Ministry. The exact actions of officers under this plan fall under state secrecy, but it is publicly known that entrances and exits to MIA buildings are blocked. Okay, goodness me. Right. Prigozhin publishes his statement saying the Russian army shelled Wagner's camp, saying he is moving his units to Moscow to punish the military, restore justice, urges military not trying to stop his units, threatens to kill anyone who will try. Okay, what else? We have Phillips O'Brien giving his commentary. Actually, we'll come to that in a little bit. Um, Tim White says it's now kicking off in Russia. Rostov police announce a pan fortress, a state of readiness implying an emergency gathering of personnel and taking control of especially important objects of law enforcement agencies. It also provides for readiness to repel an external attack. Predictably, Russia is events in Rostov have nothing to do with Wagner or Prigozhin. Well, they wouldn't admit it if it is true, so that means nothing. Obviously, a cell of up to 12 Ukraine agents are being hunted, everything according to plan. So they're trying to divert attention away from Prigozhin and a kind of coup attempt by blaming the Ukrainians. Nothing unusual there. Apparently, Oman riot police have surrounded Wagner PMC headquarters in Molkino. Wagner troops have taken defensive positions, helicopter armed with Gatling guns dispatched to the area. This base is shared with the GRU, 10th Separate Special Purpose Brigade. Guess which side they're on? Well, actually, I'm not really sure. I mean, goodness me, there is all sorts of stuff going on, and who knows who you can trust. Long version. Based on the amount of messages from Wagner and Russian sources, says Geo confirmed the activation of the Rosgvardia in Rostov to stop Wagner, the language used by the Ministry of Defense, the National Anti-Terrorism Committee, and that Yevgeny Prigozhin became the basis for initiating a criminal case on incitement to an armed rebellion. The shout out from General Surovikin to stop the columns and return them to their permanent positions and places of concentration, and footage emerging of military armored vehicles in Moscow, we do not find anything at the moment that can contradict the current claimed situation, which is Wagner is gathering forces and is moving away from the occupied Ukrainian territories towards Russia in what probably would be the direction of Moscow. Because of the panic, a lot of people are trying to spread their own interpretations. The lack of footage, it will be hard to find out what is really going on. We are looking for footage. This will be the thread covering the Wagner rebellion and so on and so forth. What is TV reporting? Special emergency broadcasts about the Prigozhin armed rebellion. FSB asked Wagner soldiers to not take part in this rebellion and take Prigozhin into custody. Okay. Furthermore, Rostov is important as it's a city where Shoigu arrived earlier to make some preparations for the coup, and where Prigozhin claimed Shoigu hid 2,000 Russian corpses to hide casualties. This is also where the Russian army allegedly shelled the Wagner units. Numerous reports now of the Russian MIA forces blocking roads. It's unclear if the Wagner units, if they are on to move anywhere, are near Rostov. Just a few more here before I let you get on with your day, evening, night. Rebar claims that extensive security measures in Moscow, including the mobilization of a variety of units, were put in place yesterday due to an operation to search for Ukrainian sleeper cells and sabotage and reconnaissance groups. So the classic kind of diversionary claims concerning the Ukrainians rather than Prigozhin and some kind of coup or civil war or whatever. Very little information, says Michael Weiss, confirmed so far, but he has gone quiet for now. He has said these things, and I can't see this being shrugged off. No, I think it's gone beyond that. But we have Surovikin giving a message, and in fact, there have been two people who are otherwise allied to Prigozhin coming out and towing the party line with regard to the Russian MOD and Kremlin. Surovikin here saying, hey, you know what, stop, go back. This is kind of crazy. But he's also holding a gun. I don't know what that says either way. So he has come out in support of the Russian governmental position, as has someone else who might otherwise be supportive of um, Prigozhin. General of the Russian army and commander-in-chief of the Russian aerospace forces, Sergei Surovikin, has called on Wagner commanders to, quote, stop the columns and return their forces to the points of permanent deployment, with his statement indicating that Wagner forces may be on the move towards Moscow. And then finally here, this is just coming out, reported as a military base in the Moscow region, potentially on fire there. It's all kind of going off. Uh, who knows how much of this is for sure true? But if you if you were Ukraine asking for anything to support their counteroffensive, this is your perfect scenario. In fact, this could unhinge the entire Russian war effort, or it might not. It might all fail, but there are cracks, there are chasms appearing in the Russian war project. There is no unity. This is incredibly significant. And do you know what? There's a part of me which is like, yeah, I'll finish my wine and watch what is going on, because this can only be good for Ukraine. I hope this has given you a kind of quick synopsis. I say quick synopsis, a synopsis of what is going on, and it's somewhat useful. This is huge news, and I felt I had to say something, despite being somewhat in an unfit state to do so. Um, Let me know what you think. Please use this thread below to spread any news about this, to share what you know, give your opinions. But I will try and summarize what has been going on and what will take place overnight in tomorrow's news video. As ever, take care. Please like, subscribe, share, all that kind of crap. But keep an eye on what is going on. This is fascinating. Take care. Speak soon. Goodbye.